It's 1:30. The June 20th meeting of the Oklahoma City Traffic and Transportation Commission is called to order. Jim Witcher.
Present.
Dan Martin.
Present.
Walter Kula. James Schuline.
Present.
Amon Jenkins.
Present.
John May.
Here.
Milford J. Clayton.
Could we have the agenda removed as a gap, please?
Thank you. Commissioner Clayton, would you lead us in prayer?
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. We come this afternoon in thanksgiving, thanking you for allowing us to do the people's business. And we do pray that everything that we do will meet with thy divine approval. This we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Any individual or group or agency appearing before the Traffic and Transportation Commission to present their views must limit their talk to 5 minutes. If you wish to speak before the Commission, if you'll see Cherry, she'll have you fill out a blue form. Item number 2, approval of the minutes of the May 16th meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Clayton, seconded by Commissioner May, to approve the minutes of the May 16th meeting. Further discussion? Could I have your votes, please? Approved unanimously.
I just wanted to abstain. I wasn't here last month.
Thank you. Item number 3 is the report on licensed taxi and wrecker services. This is a quarterly report and will be presented on during the July meeting. Item number 4 is the consent docket. Is there anyone wishing to speak on the item? There's only one item on the consent docket today. Is anyone wishing to speak against that? Do I have a motion?
So moved. With that passage.
I have a motion to approve the consent docket by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Martin. Further discussion? Could I have your votes, please? Approved unanimously. Thank you. Item 5 are the items for individual consideration. Item 5A, the applicant is Krista Murphy, Vice President of Mustang Creek Homeowners Association, 2125 Dogwood Creek, Yukon, Oklahoma. The request is to consider establishing stop control at the following intersections. Number 1, all-way stop control at Dogwood Creek Avenue and Southwest 20th Street. 2, all-way stop control at Dogwood Creek Avenue and Southwest 21st Street. 3, northbound stop control on Mulberry Creek Avenue at Southwest 20th Street. And 4, southbound stop control on Mulberry Creek Avenue at Southwest 21st Street. Is Ms. Murphy present? Could I have staff's summary, please?
Okay, you've got our staff report before you. We did updated counts for all of these locations in May of 2011, and we reevaluated them based on the current traffic conditions. At this point in time, still none of the locations meet any of our criteria for switching from yield control to stop control. So staff recommends retaining the current yield controls at all of the intersections listed.
Do I have a motion on 5A?
Recommend decline.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion to decline the request 5A by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Further discussion?
We didn't do a speed, is there speed data here on the, usually there's 85th percentile on the vehicle speed. I mean, I know what speed limit is 25, but it doesn't say
Right. The best we were able to come up with, in some cases, we were able to bring up some average speed conditions. You'll notice that on the third item, Mulberry Creek and Southwest 20th Street, we had a noted speed of like 26 miles an hour, but none of the locations experienced what we'd consider to be speeding that was significant.
I wanted to go on record as thanking the staff, the traffic division, for going out and updating that data, so we had current data. And also that it appears that from the data you collected, there would be, what we've done so far on the yield signs is working.
Right. There's not been any, there weren't any collisions at these intersections beforehand, but installing the yield control provided at least some measure of initial traffic control at these residential low-volume intersections, and there have been no collisions since their installation either.
Any further discussion? If not, I have a motion to deny 5A by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Could I have your votes, please? Motion is denied unanimously. (5B), the applicant is the Oklahoma City Police Department and the Traffic Management Division. The request is to consider recommendations for the Special Traffic and Transportation Commission Vehicles for Hire Subcommittee to make the following changes to open taxi stands. Number 1, expand the existing open taxi stand on the south side of West Main Street, west of North Broadway Avenue, by removing 2 one-hour metered parking spaces immediately to the west of the existing open taxi stand. 2, establish a new open taxi stand on the east side of North Broadway Avenue, south of Park Avenue, by removing 2 one-hour metered parking spaces closest to Park Avenue. 3, establish a new time-restricted 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. open taxi stand on the north side of Colcord Drive in the 2 reserved government vehicle parking spaces located 258 feet to 300 feet west of North Walker Avenue, east of the Civic Center. 4, establish a new open taxi stand on the west side of Robinson Avenue, south of West Reno Avenue, in the 2 newly constructed parallel parking spaces closest to West Reno Avenue. 5, establish a new open taxi stand on the south side of Northwest 6th Street, just north of North Harvey Avenue, by removing 2 2-hour metered spaces immediately to the west of North Harvey Avenue. And 6, establish a new open taxi stand on the west side of Vince Gill Avenue, north of East Sheridan Avenue, by removing 2 2-hour metered parking spaces immediately to the north of East Sheridan Avenue. Okay. Could I have staff summary, please?
All right. On June 2nd, a special subcommittee of the Traffic and Transportation Commission met to review the city's regulations regarding open taxi stands, its current stock of open stands, and reviewed recommendations regarding the expansion of existing stands and the establishment of some new stands. The special subcommittee considered recommendations relative to open taxi stands as received from Thundercab and the Oklahoma City Police Department. After a location-by-location review and discussion of each potential open stand site, the subcommittee recommends that the following list of locations provided be presented to the full Traffic and Transportation Commission for its consideration and approval. The list is as read at the beginning of this item. There is one other item that I think would be worthy of discussion, and that is, while the Oklahoma City Police Department in their review of the open stand locations recommended for downtown, They also address the use of open carriage stands as open taxi stands after midnight, after carriage companies have ceased operations. Because the establishment of carriage stands is by recommendation of the Traffic Commission to the City Council, who establishes them by ordinance, this recommendation will be presented separately at a later date in conjunction with the draft ordinance. I think because we've got an item later on in today's agenda that addresses horseshoeing for hoofed animals that draw carriages in downtown, might be a good opportunity for the commission to get some feedback from carriage stand operators as far as the use of carriage stand locations for open cab stands in the, come from midnight to 3 a.m. But other than that, based on staff's recommendation or review of the item, the police department's recommendations, the discussion of the special subcommittee, staff is recommending approval of items 1 through 6 as recommended.
Do I have a motion on item 5B?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the recommendation of the subcommittee and the commission to adopt the changes as listed.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve item 5B by Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Further discussion?
I'd like to know, did the committee consider the possibility of, once these are in place, that they evaluate, that spend some time, evaluate these as to whether or not they're adequate or not, along with the amount of construction in the downtown area, so that we're not coming back in 6 months to review it again, just because somebody says it'd be better to do it this way. What I'm suggesting is maybe that the committee recommend maybe not doing another review for at least a year until we can evaluate whether these are working or not. Otherwise, you just keep coming back as you find out the taxi folks are going to like some of this and not like some of it. And they're going to come back with more suggestions as to what could change. And I'm suggesting that in doing this, that we recommend that it stay in place for at least a year until we've got a chance to evaluate it. How well is it working? That's all. Has the committee talked about that? Mr.
Actually, I think most of the discussion was around this is going to be a work in progress, especially considering the construction that is going on in downtown Oklahoma City. With the completion of the Devon Tower, we have no idea. We tried to take some of that into consideration, but one of the items that we did talk about and was expanding the hours is Wendy Meyer. Ms. Meyer, could you give us some input on the time changes that we were talking about for the taxi stands from a carriage operator's point of view? The consensus was that the stands could be opened from midnight till 2 because they were till 3 because they were not used much past 11:30 or 12 o'clock by the carriage operators. Is that a true statement?
There are some evenings that we are not using the stands past those hours, but on weekends we're at those stands usually until, especially with the heat of the summer now, we're working later, going out later and working later. So there's some days that we're there until 1, 2 in the morning. We don't have a problem. I don't. Clint Parker with Oklahoma Premier is also here. He might have an opinion. I personally don't have an opinion with them using them after they're sure we're gone, but currently we do have a problem with them running cabs in there while we're still out, and then we can't very well get down from the carriage to ask them to move. It kind of puts us in a bad spot because we can't leave our horses unattended, and they're not always real cooperative about moving when we pull in behind them. So as long as they're sure we're gone, I don't have a problem with it, but it's figuring out how to make, that they're sure we're not using those stands.
Well, if you don't mind me asking, are there, the one issue about writing an ordinance is if we have to be relatively discreet if we're going to assign a carriage stand to be used for an open cab stand. So I understand your concern over wanting to know that, allowing cabs in, after knowing that carriage operators have finished with them, but I think there ought to be some discussion as to whether or not, is there a set time where pretty much your operations have wrapped up for the evening?
I personally am usually in by 1:30. Mr. Parker, sometimes out a little later.
Okay, does anyone, would there be any demand at these stands for carriages after, say, like 2 o'clock in the morning?
I don't believe so.
Which is the time the bar's closed.
I believe the verbiage that I read last night, I read over the agenda docket, said that after we cease to operate, that they would be converted to taxi stands. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that if there was some way for the taxis to know that we've ceased operations. One way that we can do that is, I think all of the carriage companies have signs that we set right there on the sidewalk. If the sign's still there, then we're still working. So if the sign's still out, then that means, or it could mean that we're still out there and we'll be coming back. If the sign's not there, then it's open space and the taxis could use it. What we do, I like Wendy, we come out later, and with the summertime now, families are traveling, there's tourists here, so it's difficult to put a time on those families and those people saying, well, after this time, you can't ride a carriage. I mean, we actually have a wedding planned for this next Saturday. They want us to pick them up at 1 o'clock in the morning after the reception from Bourbon Street. So we'll be out at least until 1 o'clock, I know, on Saturday. But if we could somehow, I don't know if you all are entertaining this change today or if it's going to be at a later date, but if there's some way that we could include, some way that the taxi cabs know that we're gone or that we're still there. One way, easy way, is if the sign's still there, then we're still out.
One of the items that you just mentioned that the subcommittee did not take into consideration was the fact that you could not leave your carriage because for safety concerns. So we may need to revisit that whole issue completely.
Right, and when this was brought before the subcommittee, it was based on an observation by the police department, and it's really a proposal at this point in time. It's not an item for consideration as far as today's agenda goes, but since we had the opportunity of having you present to discuss an item that's coming up later on the agenda, it was a good time to get some feedback from you to see if there were any issues that we as a city or the police department had may need to know when it comes time to consider making a change.
Thank you. One other question that I had was, would we share the stand? And if we had to share it, that would mean, there may be a taxi and then a carriage and then a taxi. But that can be difficult. Our horses may, they come up against the cars, or they may come up against the back of our carriage as well. So,
We would prefer not to share.
Right.
It's not our intent to share.
okay, very good. Well, we'd prefer not to as well.
There's nothing in ordinance that sets how late you can operate. You guys can operate 24 hours a day if you choose to.
That's correct. Now, the signs that are out on the street, and we get questions about this all the time, the signs state 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. I don't think I've ever been here at 3 a.m.
I understand.
I have stayed at times until the clubs close, which is about 1:45, but that's not conducive to our business. People, when they leave the club, they don't want to take a leisurely carriage ride around Bricktown. They want to get to their car and get out on the street and go.
We want them to get in cabs.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
If you would, I'm sure Wendy has already filled out a form, but if you would fill one out as well. Thank you.
My biggest concern is that is this committee a perpetual committee that's going to be constantly reviewing taxi stand issues? And my suggestion would be that not occur, but that once, assuming these are approved by through the process of city council and all, that these be evaluated as to whether or not they're meeting the needs or not before more changes are made. That's what my suggestion is.
I think these were brought to us on an exception basis by the police department because they saw a need for more cabs, especially when the clubs and bars were closing. Between a lot of taxis were needed at the 2 a.m. mark. So here again, I think it'll be work in progress. But were you looking for a particular time limit to say this? We leave this in place for a year, or?
Well, I was just threw that out as 1 year, but whenever you make recommendations like this, there's got to be a period of time that you evaluate those as to whether or not they're working or not.
Sure.
And it seems like before we start taking on more, because there's probably going to be some folks coming forward that want more places for taxi stands, that we evaluate if this is working before we take on that additional burden.
Further discussion?
I think it might be better to leave that discussion for another time, since that's not listed on the agenda, about discussing a time frame under which that the commission won't consider additional taxi stands. So I think maybe we should, if the commission wants to do that, we should put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
I don't have a problem with what you're doing. What my concern is that when do you evaluate what you're doing? And in what period of time? Is this good, or is this adequate, or is it something else is needed? It seems to me like that should be part of what the committee does.
Well, and here again, I think we have taken the approach, just like with our stop signs. If a stop sign is not warranted, we put up yield control signs to see if that fixes the problem, and then we wait for someone to bring it back to us and say, yeah, either it did or it didn't on an exception basis.
Good enough. Thank you.
I did want to just ask one question about the stand proposed for Vince Gill Avenue. What is that doesn't just jump out at me as a place where there'd be a lot of traffic coming right out for getting into taxis. Is that kind of planning for the future, or?
There actually is at the time a lot of traffic right there, especially toward the bar closing. You have Crabtown, several clubs, a venue, Albee, you got the Hampton right across the street, Wormy Dog.
So it gets a lot of traffic.
It's a lot of foot traffic.
I'm not usually in Bricktown at 145. So.
No, in that area at 145, it is a crowd of people.
Okay, thanks.
Further discussion? I have a motion to approve item 5B by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Is that correct? I'm sorry. Schuline and Witcher. If there's no further discussion, I'd like your votes, please. Approved unanimously? Thank you. Item 5C, Prince Limousine, LLC, 7321 Edinboro, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Consider an application from Prince Limousine, LLC for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate 10 vehicles in limousine service. I'm going to mess this name up big time, so I'm just going to ask you to state your name and address, please.
My name is Al-Chapsh Abdul Ali, or you can call me Ali.
I'm sorry?
Ali.
Ali. And would you state your address for the record, please?
Yes, 7321 Edinboro, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73132.
Did you have anything to add to the request?
Just want to thank everybody for giving me a chance today to stand here and represent my company in compliance with the Oklahoma City regulation, and just want to have a chance.
Okay, thank you. Could I have staff summary, please?
Okay. Completion of the application and the fulfillment of the requirements of Chapter 56, 24B through D demonstrates the applicant's ability to comply with the requirements of the article regulating vehicles for hire, and therefore satisfies the criteria as set forth in 5624A. Staff recommends approval of the application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity as presented.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Clayton, seconded by Commissioner Martin, to approve item 5C. Further discussion? If not, could I have your votes, please? Approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Please let the record denote that I abstained on that vote.
I'm sorry. Item 5D, the applicant is J&K Enterprises and Imports, LLC, 4345 Southwest 29th Street, Oklahoma City. Consider an application from J&K Enterprises and Imports, LLC, doing business as $20 Shuttle, LLC, for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate 15 vehicles in shuttle service. If you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jafar Najam. I'm the CEO and president of J&K Enterprises, 4345 Southwest 29th Street, 73119.
Did you have anything to add to the request?
I think our application is complete. If you all have any questions, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you. Could I have staff summary, please?
Okay, I'm going to pass on a comment that we received from the Department of Airports. They did raise a question when they were reviewing this item, and they would just ask for some oral clarification on the pricing schedule that was provided. I think that really just needs a little bit of explanation, because the pricing sheet that's included in the agenda item's got two sides, one of which is noted share a ride rates, and the other one's noted as single fare rates. And would you be able to talk to the Commission about how your rate structure is set up?
Yes, the model is set up very simple. The $20 shuttle is $20 per person anywhere in Oklahoma City, Edmond, Norman, Yukon, all the areas that we service. It is minimum 2 fares, since it is share a ride. Anytime the shuttle leaves with just one passenger, regular fares apply. And on the fare sheet, copies are coming to you. The regular fares are attached on the fare sheet, which has been submitted to you, to the city. And the regular fares are the same fares which exist within our company and all the other 4 shuttle companies.
Do I have a motion on 5D?
I'll move to approve.
I was waiting to be recognized. I move that the application be approved.
I have a motion to approve.
Now a second.
And a second. Further discussion? Commissioner Witcher. I have 2 people to speak on this as well. Did you have anything to add? Okay, thank you. Further discussion?
Mr. Najam, just out of curiosity, you have a number of shuttle services in operation. Is it the pricing structure that distinguishes it? Why do you need this shuttle service?
Well, there are 2 main reasons. A, the pricing structure, this actually changes the entire dynamics of shuttling in Oklahoma City. This is what we actually wanted to bring in, and then slowly we're going to merge the rest of the companies. The main reason is 18th of April, the Traffic Commission had approved 4 of our companies, if you remember. Out of those 4 companies, 2 of the companies we cannot launch, because 18th April, you, although approved our companies, we hold the federal tax ID numbers, the EIN numbers, but 15th of April, the owners of Airport Express had actually gone to the State Secretary's office and reserved 2 of the names of our companies. they tried to reserve all 4 names. They could not touch 2 of the names because those were protected by the umbrella of the mother company, J&K Enterprise. They could not touch those. But 2 of the companies, they had already reserved the names for 60 days. The purpose was very simple, which has been from day one, not to let any other shuttle company come into Oklahoma City. So whatever way they can possibly find to derail the process, delay the process, to see what the sustainability of this other company is, they have tried it. Their attorney, if you remember, Commissioner May, stood over here and said they will not get the insurance, they will not go through OCC, and all those good things. So the 2 companies are operating at the airport right now, the Oklahoma Shuttle and the Lightning Express. The Thunder Shuttle and the Tri-City Shuttle, still, we cannot do anything because those names are held in reserve with Airport Express, LD Lucas. Now, any person with common sense can pretty much deduce the motive behind it. Why would you hold my company's names? For what? You want them, just ask for it, take it. I'll find another name. I'll call it Betty Boo. It doesn't matter. But why would you hold it? When the commission has already approved those 4 names. And how would you know about those names? Because it's common knowledge. It's on the docket.
Mr. Najam, I think this doesn't have any bearing on the approval of this item.
Sir, it does have it's imperative because the actual business, the nitty-gritty business, runs outside.
Yes, but the actions you're talking about by third parties are not a part of this.
And for our business.
And for approval, we don't need to hear that. I have a motion to approve item 5D by Commissioner Jenkins, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'd ask for your votes, please. Item 5D is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Item 5E, the applicant is Independent Cab Company, LLC, 7612 Northwest 8th Street, Oklahoma City. The request is to consider an application from Independent Cab Company, LLC, for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate 40 vehicles in taxi service. David Kamaj or Ghazi Akabiz?
Ghazi Akabweze, residing at 13329 Plaza Terrace of Oklahoma City, 73120. I just want to add to the fact that it's with gladness of heart that I stand before you this morning and members of the council to ask that you give us approval on this because the city so much needed diversities in taxi services, and the city needs a lot of taxis to operate, and what we 5 owners did is to come up as independent cab owners to operate as such, and with that to cover the city 24 hours a day with central dispatch, a GPS system to know where our cabs are at all times, and to cover breakdown, especially on a weekend. There's a lot of people that need cabs there, and we as cab drivers know the importance of covering the costs wherever they come from and maintaining a clean car. And also we know the experiences needed we have between the 5 owners. We have over 100 years of experience as taxi drivers. We have all driven for both yellow cabs, A1, Safeway when they were in operation, and now we work for Thunder Cab, which we help establish, and we thank a Yellow Cab for their diligence in handling the big city business, and we thank all the cab companies, Thunder Cab, A1 Cabs, and we think we will additionally do better service because to add to their service because we're experienced cab drivers.
Thank you, Mr. Agaves. Staff summary, please.
Okay, you've got a completed application before you. Staff recommends approval of the application as submitted.
Do I have a motion on 5E?
I so move.
Second.
Second.
She beat you.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I have a motion to approve item 5E by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Further discussion? David Camille had filled out a, is this in support of this?
Yes, sir.
Do you have anything to add?
No, I think Kazi covered it pretty well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners have any questions, further discussion? If not, we have a motion to approve 5E by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Could I have your votes, please? It's approved. Thank you.
Thank you, members of the council.
Thank you. Item 5F, J&K Enterprises, LLC, 4345 Southwest 29th Street, Oklahoma City. The request is to consider directing the supervisor of licenses to initiate revocation and suspension proceedings against Airport Express, Inc.'s Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity by providing written notice to said company that a public hearing will be held to determine whether revocation or suspension is justified. Yes, I think we'll have staff's comments before the applicant's comments.
All right. On May 17th, J&K Enterprises and Imports filed a complaint with the Municipal Counselor's Office alleging that the licensed shuttle company, Airport Express, is not operating in full compliance with the requirements of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code 2007, Chapter 56. Specifically, they contend that Airport Express is not operating in compliance with the requirements of 5624D. In accordance with the Oklahoma City Municipal Code, as a part of the business licensing process, the Traffic and Transportation Commission is responsible for the review of vehicle for hire company applications based on the requirements set forth in 5624, criteria for granting a certificate of convenience and necessity/business license. In the complaint, J&K Enterprises contends that Airport Express is not in compliance with the vehicle color requirements as set forth in 5624D because the vehicles operated by Airport Express, Metro Express, Express Shuttle, and Airport Shuttle, which are all companies owned and operated under a common partnership, all bear the same vehicle color scheme. Under 5624D, the duty of the Traffic and Transportation Commission is to investigate and consider whether an applicant has a unique color scheme and/or trademark and/or name different from any other motor vehicle for hire licensee so that a reasonable person would not confuse the different licensees. For your information, we've provided a summary of all actions taken by the Commission relative to the companies that are in question. In order for the supervisor of licenses to initiate the public hearing process regarding the suspension or revocation of Airport Express Incorporated's Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity, the Commission must determine whether Airport Express is operating in violation of any parts of 5629. If the Commission determines that a violation exists that merits either revocation or suspension of Airport Express's certificate, then the Commission shall initiate the proceedings by directing the supervisor of licenses to give written notice to said owner that a public hearing will be held thereon by the Traffic Commission as stipulated in 5629B. So action on this matter is at the discretion of the commission.
I'm sorry, Mr. Najam?
So we'd like to present our case. April 18th, we had asked for 4 of our companies to be approved. When we brought forth our color schemings, if you could look on the slides, and probably you can see on the hard copies too, we had presented our color scheme, the company color scheme, to be crimson and orange, which is OSU and OU colors. All our 4 companies were to be those colors. That was supposed to be our brand strategy. At that time, although our companies were approved, but there was a long discussion that all 4 companies have the same color. And thus, we are in non-compliance of Article 56-24. We had showed and presented at that time that Airport Express, that has been operating for 24 years, has 4 similar companies: Airport Express, Metro Express, Express Shuttle, and Airport Shuttle. And if you look at the slide, all these 4 companies are identical. Blue vans with yellow lettering. Article 56-24 applies to this company equally as it applies to J&K Enterprises. Now, looking at these vehicles, we were asked, because they filed a petition after we were approved, to go back, waste a month, go to a special hearing for non-compliance, come back, refile an application, redo our entire color scheming, redo the vehicles, start our business all over again, which we did. And if you look at our slides, our 4 companies have 4 distinct colors, although the choice of color scheming is the same, which is still our brand recognition in the company, but the designs are different. We had to redo all our vehicles. To my knowledge, Airport Express was on the docket last month, which about 3 days prior for the commission to sit, they pulled themselves out, that they will merge their 3 companies into Airport Express and make it one company, and due to financial constraints, they need a little time, and that would solve the problem of color scheming. To date, not a single vehicle has been changed or the process started. Now, every year we have an annual inspection. The purpose of the inspection is, first and foremost, to make sure that all these vehicle for hire companies are in compliance with the Article 56. Sergeant McCaleb over here makes sure, and his team, that these vehicles are in compliance of Article 56 so that they can be out on the road, not just for safety and security, but also that the article states the color schemings, their condition, they are fit enough for the citizens of Oklahoma City to even use them. And that was the opt time for this company to be in full compliance. What we did was allow them to go through that inspection and say, you have 1 more year to change merely 7 or 8 vehicles. Because from business standpoint, where I stand and see all this is just a gimmick. The summary that states over here that this company started in 1988, and the last appearance they had in front of the Traffic Commission was April 2000. And after that, they didn't even have the need to come over here. If you have the hard copies over here, this is the record that's from the county clerk. These were the applications filed in from the county clerk that we pulled out. This is dated 6/19/09. It's a full convenience for hire application for Airport Shuttle.
Mr. Najam, you have 1 minute left.
Just like that, for all their 4 companies, you have the record of 4 companies, all dated 6/19/09. And the strange part in this is, Each application has an exact identical listing of 52 drivers. But the application they're hiring for is, except Airport Express, that has 42 vehicles, this has 7, some has 4, some has 3. What a miracle. You're going to fit 52 drivers and 7 vehicles. And these are dated 2009. If I have to do any change into my company, directly or indirectly, it has to come to the commission, or at least to Mr. Chai. If I change the rates right now, that letter has to come to Mr. Chai and then to city's office. How come this never came, and then we state over here that the last payment was 2,000?
Thank you, Mr. Najam. We'll have some more discussion on this later, I'm sure. Do I have a motion on 5F? Yes. If I don't have a motion, the item will die for lack of a motion.
For purpose of discussion, I'll make a motion for purposes of directing supervisor of licenses to initiate either revocation or suspension proceedings against Airport Express.
So this is a motion to approve item 5F.
That's correct.
Do I have a second? The item dies for lack of a second. Moving on to 5G. Wendy Meyer, Cameo Carriage Company, 8651 East Simpson Road, Guthrie, Oklahoma. The request is to consider a recommendation to the Oklahoma City Council on an ordinance relating to vehicles for hire, Chapter 56 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code 2007 by amending Section 56-204 of Article 2 and replacing it with a new Section 56-204. Ms. Meyer, if you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Wendy Meyer, 8651 East Simpson Road, Guthrie, Oklahoma, 73044.
Would you like to add anything to the request as it was read?
I want to thank the council for taking the time and the effort that they've put into this. I know the carriages are kind of an oddity that you don't deal a lot with, and I do appreciate the efforts that have gone into this. There were some questions last time I was here about the shoes. There was a few people were unclear about the shoes. I brought some examples if anybody's interested in seeing. The borium was a big topic. I don't know if anybody actually wants to see in the new rule the way we have it with open-toed borium shoes. I brought a shoe in case anybody was interested, and then also an example of a shoe that we would like to be able to start using, the reason we're wanting to change the law.
Thank you. Could I have staff summary, please?
Okay, as was just summarized for you at the May 16th meeting, Ms. Meyer was here to address the commission regarding her concerns over shoes on horses used to pull carriages through downtown. The ordinance that we've included with this item addresses a condition that was cited by Ms. Meyer requiring that hooves of animals used to pull carriages be properly trimmed and shod. The ordinance offers greater flexibility for carriage operators by broadening the types of shoes that would be acceptable for use. As proposed, the type of shoe that could be used on a horse would not be limited only to steel-type shoes. Staff supports the proposed draft ordinance and recommends that the Commission refer this draft ordinance to the City Council with a recommendation for its adoption.
Do I have a motion on 5G?
I'll second.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Clayton to approve, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Further discussion? I'd like to see the shoes.
And these stay on securely throughout a long night?
Now, do these say Reebok or anything like that on them anywhere? Okay. Well, the New Balance is an American company. Okay. And this is hard surfacing?
And
Smells just like a horse. How long do those last? No, the
rubber ones, they come with a lifetime warranty. If they wear through them, we can send them in and they'll send us a new shoe.
Wow.
They're not very inexpensive to buy initially, but once you make the investment,
So both of these are financially doable for owners.
yeah, if you're going to spend a little bit more, we reshoe our horses every 6 weeks. Most of us reshoe about every 6 weeks. It's a couple $100 for the new set of shoes on the horse. And then these are about $100 you turn over per boot. So it's more of an investment, but
Appreciate you bringing those, sharing that with the commission. Further discussion? Clint Parker. Did you wish to speak in support of this?
No, I'm in total support. I think Wendy's done a great job of sharing with you the boots and her knowledge.
If you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. It's Clint Parker. I live at 55 Cherokee in Shawnee, Oklahoma, 74801.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I have a motion by Commissioner Clayton, seconded by Commissioner Witcher, I believe, wasn't it? To approve, to approve item 5G. Any further discussion? If not, I'd like your votes, please. Approved. Thank you. Appreciate your input, Ms. Myers, on the other issue, and we'll reach out to you as that progresses. Item 5H, the applicant is Genesis Limousine, LLC, 717 Banner Avenue, Edmond, Oklahoma. Consider an application from Genesis Limousine, LLC for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate 10 vehicles in limousine service. Ronna Mason. If you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Ronna Mason, 717 Manor Avenue, Edmond, Oklahoma, 73013.
Could we have staff summary, please?
Okay, we've got another complete application for a certificate of convenience and necessity. Staff recommends approval of this application as presented.
Do I have a motion on 5H?
I make a motion for approval.
I second.
I have a motion by Commissioner
I
Martin.
second it.
I'm sorry, Ms. Jenkins. Ms. Jenkins seconded your motion. Okay. I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Further discussion? Questions of Ms. Mason? If not, I'd ask for your votes, please. The item's approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5I, Glory Limousine, LLC, 4025 North Meridian Avenue, Oklahoma City. There is a request to consider an application from Glory Limousine, LLC, for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate 5 vehicles in limousine service. sorry. If you'd fill out, if you'd state your name and address, and then when you're done, fill out one of these blue forms, please.
My name is Mazgul Zanwork, 4025 North Meridian Avenue, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73112.
Could I have staff's report, please?
Okay, in your staff report, we've noted that that he's made an application filed for a certificate of convenience and necessity to operate 5 limousines in service. He's got a completed application that meets all our requirements, and we're recommending approval of the application as presented.
Do I have a motion on 5I?
So move.
Second.
Have a motion to approve item 5I by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Further discussion? Questions?
I wanted to clarify in the application that silver color with black tinted window and black color, is there more detail that, is it black on the bottom and silver on top, or?
Yeah, the whole color is silver color, and the window is black tinted. I have 3 cars ready for inspection, but the one is silver and the other one, just black color, and the window is tinted.
Okay, so some of your vehicles are silver and some are black, is that?
All of them should be silver.
Okay.
All of them are,
All right.
yeah.
All right. And that's, I'm sure, distinctive from any other limousine thing that we've approved, or is that required that they be distinctive on limousine service?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, I guess the most important question, on limousine services, do we have a requirement that they have a distinctive color?
The distinctive color scheme applies to all vehicles for hire. There is an exception stated for limousines that they can utilize black or white vehicles. But in this case, since he's silver, I believe Mr. Chai said that no other limousines operate with a silver color scheme.
Good enough. Thank you.
Further discussions or questions? If not, I have a motion to approve item 5I by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Could I have your votes, please? The item is approved. Thank you. That takes us to item number 6, and this is comments from citizens. Is there anyone wishing to speak who has not spoken? Mr. Najam? Same rules still apply, 5 minutes.
5 minutes would be more than plenty. I'm just a little confused. I think we're still in the learning process. I just wanted to know, by the motion dying because of second of the vote, did we in essence say that 56-24 now is nullified? Is that what happened just now?
Your request was denied.
Oh, okay. So, I'm just confused as because when we go back, actually what we did was, the request was very evidently, and we very openly said, no. So basically what we said was, we see it clearly, so now moving forward from here onwards, there's no stipulation of the color scheming anymore. Thus, 56-24 does not stand as an ordinance as we know it.
Is that a question or a statement?
It is a question, sir, because we are still in business, so moving forward, I guess with $20 shuttle and all, we don't actually have to go through widespread investments of different color schemings and all. We can just merge everything as crimson and orange and actually go back to zero with the entire company being as one color scheme, and come back to the commission and say, hey, we saved a lot of money, our bottom line is looking good now, because it affects the bottom line, sending it to the paint, like this is this, this is this, this is this, and that's the whole purpose of that company, our company, and we just now said that, no, you don't have to actually do that. It's not needed. That's what we did.
Okay.
That's my question. Because once I leave over here at 3:30, 4 o'clock, I have a bulk of vehicles to go down into painting. Why do they have to go and get painted lime green? Or this way crimson and orange, or OU on the top, or crimson on the, or OSU on the side? Why? No. All 40 vehicles go and get painted this way. The entire company, all J&K Enterprises. Or for that matter, if you remember the conversation, why do this taxi company have to be this color and this color? We actually put the entire ordinance, chunked it out. My 5 minutes up? No.
You still got 2 minutes.
I do. I'm done. I think the first time in my life, I'm done before the time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? If not, then we'll move on to the next item.
Might get some direction, some grooming, something.
The
so
ordinance is still in effect. The ordinance is still in effect.
In effect, just for us.
That's all I'm going to say.
So Sergeant McCaleb can now look at the Airport Express shuttles and start pulling them off and say, hey, ordinance in effect, you're in non-compliance?
So John, the ordinance says and/or. It says color scheme and/or. Find the exact language.
Tyler, can you put that slide up real quick, please? Because they don't need any and/or.
It says unique color scheme and/or trademark and/or name. Because of the and/or, we could consider all of those together, or the commission could consider those separately.
And why were we asked to change the color scheme? Our names are different, so we meet all the compliance.
The application as presented a color scheme, and it was discussed at that time. The commission discussed your color scheme, and your applications were approved.
Yes, but we were asked to change the color scheme, and we were in full compliance because of that and/or. Our names were different, and that's what you're saying right now, that they do not comply with the color scheme, but their names are different. So they comply with the and/or. When we filed in the application, we were exactly in the same spot, but we were asked to change the entire color schemings. And now you're saying that they have and/or, and/or, and/or. We had 4 distinct names with the same color scheme. But we were asked to change the color scheme because a normal person would get confused, although we had 4 distinct names. But we're saying that they are identical. Our lettering was different too. Their lettering is identical too.
Mr. Nijam, your time's up.
Now it's up?
Now it's up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any further comments from citizens? If not, we'll move on to item number 7, reports and other items from the Traffic Commission, Commissioners, Traffic Commission Committees, staffs, and Municipal Councilors report. Commissioner Witcher.
I have nothing to report, but I would I'd like perhaps council's idea of what's a possible timeline for when the ordinance change having to do with shooing animals. What might we expect to see that go before council?
Well, at this point in time, we've got to, the ordinance has to be presented in a final format, and then we'll need to submit it for the city council's agenda. They've gone to an every other week meeting schedule, and we've got certain time criteria in which to have our items reviewed and approved for one of those agendas, so it'll probably be sometime later this summer.
Okay.
I mean, it won't just be immediate, because that's just the nature of the cutoff schedule.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Martin?
No report. I am sort of curious about the 2009 application from Metro Express and Shuttle Express, because, I mean, there was no documentation about that in the staff report. I mean, is that in, is anybody else curious about that? When all the names got merged together?
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't believe that was an application that came to the Traffic Commission. That might have been a renewal for a form or something like that that went straight through licensing. It was not something that was presented at the commission level.
Commissioner Schuline?
Mr. Chairman, I do want to thank the subcommittee, Commissioner Clayton, Commissioner Miller, and Commissioner Kula, for working on the proposed changes. I really appreciate your time, and also the staff for the summary of all the everything related to.
Well, and I'd like to add as well, the police department recognizes the need for the, I don't know if we have a curfew in Bricktown, do we? At
11 p.m. every night.
So when they come out from the establishments, they're expected to go right straight to their vehicles?
For juveniles.
For juveniles. Oh, I'm sorry. Curfew applies to juveniles.
Juveniles, under 18.
Okay. But recognizing the need to get our citizens home safely. Ms. Jenkins.
Well, I thank you for providing me with information about the no parking during events over in the Wildwood area. I think there's still a concern because most of the traffic has moved north on MLK, and also with the opening up of Northeast Church of Christ parking lots. This has eliminated some of the parking issues.
Thank you. Commissioner May.
I have two things. One of the reasons that I made the motion I did for discussion purposes is just the same thing that Commissioner Dan Martin was talking about. If you got information that we haven't had yet, we should be able to discuss it. And by the way, how many of you have other information besides what was presented here today that you'd like to discuss regarding that matter? My concern about the whole thing is that it appears as if we've just discriminated against two different applicants. Because we said color is important to one applicant, and the other one's got 4 separate companies, all the same color, and it's not important. So we've got a little bit of credibility problem here, folks, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to push the issue. I'm just saying, if you start looking at what's prevailed here in the last 2 months, there's a little bit of credibility on our part. Because we said color doesn't matter to one, and then the other one, I'll just ignore it. So, and that's my spiel on it. The other part is, we lost an Oklahoma City icon in Clara Looper, and should be recognized. I got to work with her for about 4 years back in the 80s, and then I left Tinker Credit Union as their president and went to Dow Chemical down in wonderful Texas, our neighbor to the south. But in those 4 years, Clara, ours prevailed on the basis of justice. What was right for people. And if I could do anything, I'd like to emulate her and say, let's work towards justice for people. And that's what we need to try to accomplish. The rules and regulations are great. They're a guideline to go by. Doesn't mean we break them, but we can adjust them or keep updating them so we can correct them as we see the need for justice, for fairness. And that's my, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Ray. Commissioner Clayton.
I'd just like to add to his remarks. My lack of seconding was due to the fact that I was not in favor of filing suspension or revocation charges. But I think we do have to be careful in terms of setting a double standard. And we did ask for the different colors with the other company. And with Airport, or whatever name it is, they are using the same color with different names. So that's...
Well, there is some distinction between a shuttle service and taxis. I mean, because the shuttles obviously predate all of us. They came in, the original company. It goes back to '88.
And could I mention something?
Yes.
I think we think they're unique, but do those folks think they're unique?
Well, I mean, if you...
See, if you've got rules to go by, and they're not going by the rules, and they're adjusting what they're doing to better what they want to serve the public, which is fine, but what happens if they overlap into other areas?
What areas are you talking about? I mean, what...
Well, I'll give you an example. Page 974, the yellow pages, listed under taxi cabs, is Airport Express. They're not a taxi cab. We don't look at it as a taxi cab. It's listed in the yellow pages. Reality talks, see? My reaction is, it's not what we perceive, it's what they're doing.
They only take them to and from the airport.
It's not the point. It's listed under taxi cabs, Airport Express. The only one that's listed there. On page 974 of the yellow pages. Want to take a look at it?
No, I believe
681-3311. That's where I get this objectivity thing saying, wait a minute, we're talking about the rules, are they playing by the rules? What's the old thing? Trust but verify? I think we need to do more of that.
One rule or one thing that I'd like to comment upon, the motion died for lack of a second.
Right.
We cannot discuss an item without a second. And that's why we have changed our procedure a little bit from asking for a motion and a second. And if we have that, then we can discuss it openly. Without that, we can't proceed any further. So, just a little, that's my understanding of Robert's Rules of Order. So, Stuart.
You've got a report. You've got our report before you indicating where yield signs have been installed administratively. You'll probably get another report like this next month, in addition to some no parking signs, which are also being installed administratively as well.
Ms. Jackson? Captain Martin?
I apologize for the question after the fact, but I wanted to make sure he wasn't leaving here with the interpretation that an ordinance just flew out the window. So from the enforcement side, I wanted to make sure he knew that it was still in effect, not from a legislative, legal interpretation, but I think he was trying to interpret it by saying if we didn't answer his question, therefore it was gone. I didn't want him leaving here with that interpretation.
If there are no further comments, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you.